with so much technological progress, are our communication skills also improving? Hello and welcome to Communication, Psychology and HR. My name is Gerhard. I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany, living here in the Republic of Moldova. I'm working at a university and being a private consultant. Well, we may be inclined to respond to the affirmative. We have better smartphones, television sets, cars, and so on. But if we look at the purely human factor, we may be more cautious. We have lots of war going on in Europe and different parts of the world. The general international atmosphere is quite hostile. And if we look at ourselves as humans, there are reasons to doubt optimism. For example, in the area of communication, there are studies showing, for example, that empathy levels have actually declined over the last decades. And there are causes for the decline, and there are causes to be cautious about our communication skills. You yourself may remember this probably. Not so long ago, there was this global pandemic called COVID. I hope they are no longer canceling videos that include that word. And what happened is we had to stay at home. Children had to stay at home. People were physically isolated one from another in many countries. And in children especially, after they had to go back to school, there were observable psychological effects. So their social skills actually decreased. But also with us adults, I remember I switched to online education. And for 2 or 3 years, I didn't do any in-person workshops anymore. And the first workshops felt very strange. I felt uncomfortable approaching groups of people during the seminar. People were doing role plays and I didn't feel comfortable. Am I too close to them, too distant to them, where to look at, and so on. Now, we cannot eliminate online communication, and online communication has lots of merits too, of course. The problem is that there are some shortcomings and some advantages in our current online communication. We cannot turn the wheel back. It's like it is. Everybody already works in a hybrid environment. Some communication is face-to-face, some is online. Well, what are the potential problems? Well, in online communication, we are cut off lots of information sources. Sitting in front of a person, we get more information. We can see his or her feet, hands. We can feel another person better than over an email or even a Zoom call. And if you're in a group situation, of course, if you're in a room, you may feel the atmosphere in this room. But how do you feel the atmosphere in a Zoom call with 20 participants? So the tendency here may be, and some of it's documented, that people share less information. For example, if I'm about to tell a joke or a funny anecdote, if I am in an actual meeting, I may have a better grasp whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. Online, with 20 pins on my screen, or not even that, a list of names, well, I'm not sure if this joke will fail, or maybe it will be even found offensive. And after having made this joke, I have no immediate feedback in a real life situation. If my joke was inappropriate, well, then I have the opportunity to repair my mistake. but online I don't. So online we also don't share so much information. We have, of course, lots of possibilities of social loafing, that is disengaging. I can do my dishes during an international conference call, and so there is a tendency that we communicate less because we are not accountable. We don't trust the other person so much. So to establish trust, it's important to have real life connections. And also online communication is often asynchronous. Asynchronous means we decide when to answer. Sitting face to face, we cannot hide. We cannot say, well, let me think, let me come back in 6 hours. Now we need to immediately give a reaction, but in online communication we can answer an email in a day or in an hour, but even 5 minutes in a real meeting is often not realistic to go out of the meeting. So what this means is communicating asynchronously. We may be protected from the challenges of real life communication where we need to comment immediately, especially if the situation is uncomfortable, stressful. Now we cannot often take time out. So if we are mostly communicating asynchronously, we may have lost our immunity, our preparation, our experience in handling complicated situations, which may explain why people start becoming more sometimes downright hysterical, and that people are becoming more emotional. Of course, there are factors like the global economy and international situation and so on, but people are becoming emotionally more sensitive. Because if you have been accustomed to asynchronous communication and now you are faced with a real person being angry at you or demanding something of you, well, in such a situation you are not prepared, and it's easy to switch on our emotions. Now, this is something we need to come to grips with. So if we are in a hybrid environment, we need to consciously work on exposing ourselves to such difficult training situations. We need to create them on our own account. And another danger of internet communication is that we often live in our own bubble. So the algorithm in Instagram or YouTube feeds us exactly the same information or attitudes we want to experience. So that means we are becoming departmentalized. We are consuming content that we like, we have previously consumed. So we will be less exposed to contradictory positions, and we also will be less presented with a new or challenging, intellectually challenging information. So we are consuming more of the same information with more of the same attitudes and emotions, and this is actually risking to dumb us down. And I know of persons, and probably you know, that have become apprehensive of reading books. And this happens sometimes because reading a book becomes increasingly difficult. We have been fed with low, very low complex information tailored to our emotional needs. Everything is broken down in segments of 30 seconds, 1, 2, 3 minutes. we are getting told things we want to hear that are as easy as possible, because the more complicated and complex something is, the less palatable for most social media users probably. So step by step we are being exposed to more simpler and simpler material. Now imagine at school or university, so you want to progress from one grade to another grade, from one class to another class, but in grade 4 you start consuming textbooks from grade 3, then you are put into grade 5 and you are consuming books from grade 2 and so on. This is actually what often happens in our social media. And we are not only not able to take the perspectives of other people, but also professionally we may be quite dumbing down ourselves. So in our profession we can also choose between intellectually rigorous information, aka science, or we can read or hear about life hacks. And now imagine, do you want to be operated by a surgeon who has ditched his or her textbooks in medicine and starts accumulating information just by his TikTok feed on medicine, of course, on surgery? Of course not. But I observed this in my professional area of HR, for example. There are quite a lot of colleagues. I asked them, well, as a business trainer, as an HR coach, what are the books you are reading, or what are you? I don't need books. I rely on my personal experience. And this is also very dangerous, but a topic for another video, because sometimes relying on the experience of others is not only more safe, but it's also more accurate, because my personal experience is just one case study. It's one data point. But if I learn from the experiences of others, I have multiple data points. So I may be an exception. So I hope this discussion was intellectually stimulating. If you have concrete questions or comments, please leave them here. Every week I offer a free masterclass for one team, organization and company on communication psychology. You just need to write me an email or contact me on LinkedIn. So have a nice week and see you in 7 days. Bye bye.